We'll start basically with a little bit of background and details about what we'll talk about in this presentation. First, we'll go through basic information about the cosmos and stellar motion, just basic stuff. We'll talk about how fixed stars function in astrology, how you use them, planet attributions to stars, and how to understand and use them. It's an area not many people have touched upon, but I really like it. We'll go through a smattering of zodiacal and non-zodiacal constellations with, wait for it, gobs of sample charts, because I love sample charts. That's just the most fun part of this, is putting together, is finding charts and looking through them. So this is an image of the cosmos, at least one that I guess we can visualize it on screen. It's a celestial map, which is a human construct for observing and measuring the sky. You know, there aren't lines out in the sky, of course. So each line represents something. The pink line at the top, this pink circle, is the northern constellations. And that would be like Draco and Aldebaran and, Cassiopeia, the Ursa Major Minor. And then the green line is the declination, it's the ecliptic. And that is where you get your zodiac constellations. The yellow line is the celestial equator, where you get right ascension. So you measure declination from the ecliptic, you measure right ascension from the equator, celestial equator. And then there are southern constellations at the bottom. Now there's somewhat less southern constellations because those really didn't get put into place until we had sailors circumnavigating the globe and adding their stars that they saw to star maps. So they're the ones that are in the south are kind of more unusual, and they don't have as much lore attached to them. But there are some really big stars down there. There's just not quite as many constellations in the deep south. There are 88 constellations currently in use. Now, at the top of this axis, Earth's axis is a little bit tilted, is the celestial north. And that's known in lore as the nail or the pin or the Mount Meru. There's a lot of ways that it's been, described in myth and lore. But basically, this is due north, south, celestial north, not geographic north. A little bit different. The equinoxes are where the celestial equator and the ecliptic intersect. So you see these two, the yellow and green line, where they intersect. That's where you get equal day and equal night. The solstices are at the edges where they're furthest apart. That's where you get the longest day and the longest night. So precession. Stars don't move much, but they do move approximately 1 degree every 7 years. So my sample star is Sirius, Alpha Canis Major, the largest star in our visible range. Sirius is actually, I think, a triple star. It's a big mag triple star, and it's the brightest star in the sky. So to show you how fast or how slow stars move, in 1350, Sirius was at 5 Cancer, and it's moving, a little bit less than a degree a year. And then, we see here in 1950 at 13 Cancer, 2050 at 14. It's right about in between that. Now it's about ready to shift to 14 Cancer 0. So you want to keep this in mind when you're looking at charts for historic events or people born in earlier decades or centuries. So, somebody picks up a chart for Leonardo da Vinci and says, oh, he's got something at 26 Taurus, it's conjunct Algol. Well, no, it's not. 400 years ago, Algol would have been at maybe 20 Taurus. So those stars do move. They're not pinned into place. So that movement can be a little confusing when you're looking at older charts. You just kind of got to wiggle it back about a degree every century. That's a good ballpark. Or you can look it up with your software and find out where that star was. So the full precession cycle, the amount of time it takes Earth's apparent motion with the stars to go into a full cycle through all 12 zodiacal signs is 26,000 years. So if you quarter that, it's 6,500 years. And then 1/12 of that, which is called a platonic year or an aeon, is 2,166 years. Okay, so that math is really neat and tidy, but the constellations are actually very big or very small. They're all different sizes. So the actual length of an age, okay, it could be 2,100 years, but in reality, the spring equinox can pass through a constellation in much less than that. Like if it's a small constellation like Aries or Cancer, it could be a very short age. And then there might be nothing on the rising until you get to the next zodiacal constellation, or it might rise with stars with other constellations, but not a zodiacal constellation. So the whole concept of age is ages or aeons is linked to the fixed stars, but it's hard to do it in precision. So, you can give this precise, 2,166 years, but that may not be accurate when it comes to actual constellations. I think people get that confused because, well, they're saying, well, it's the age of Aquarius. Well, kind of, yeah, but Pisces and Aquarius are both really big, stretched out constellations. I mean, they're wide. They take up a lot of arc space and longitude. So their stars are going to overlap for several years, centuries, until really the spring equinox is only coming up. The sun is only rising with Aquarius stars and no longer with Pisces stars. So it's kind of the age of Aquarius is kind of right now, it's the age of Pisces and Aquarius. It's an overlapping period because the stars overlap. So basics of fixed star delineation. Planets are the primary objects for natal chart interpretation, with signs, houses, and aspects, of course. The constellations of the planet's celestial real estate. Planets own the signs don't own the planets. And it's kind of easy to remember that because remember, stars don't make aspects to planets. Planets only can make aspects to stars. The stars don't have enough light to give aspects in the ancient kind of thought pattern. So planets own the signs don't own the planets. Fixed stars add thematic material and influence the individual's overall life path. So you get kind of a big picture here when you're adding fixed stars. Significant transits can activate natal planet star combinations and influence choices in an event that follow those themes or storylines. The constellations and fixed stars and the stars that form them are kind of like a library of characters, plot lines, and storylines. It's like a catalog of plays or fairy tales or stories or myths. The stars are a cosmic mural or a backdrop for planetary interactions. So they kind of inspire what's going on with the planets, but the planets are the actors, right? They're the ones in front. They're the ones that are closest to us. Oops, moving on. So now how does a planet absorb energy from a star? Each fixed star is kind of, I like to think of them like, how they have in the Himalayas, they have these little Sherpas that carry your bags and stuff up to the top of Mount Everest or K2. And those stars are kind of like Sherpas because all this stuff has been put in their little star backpacks for thousands of years. And it seems like to me, once something lands in a star's backpack, whether it's storyline, plot, character traits, accumulated multicultural astrological lore, multicultural star lore about constellations and lunar mansions, once any of that lands in the backpack, it sticks. Those meanings could come up. So the planets are very selective conduits or filters or buffers for stellar influences. Each planet, so the sun is very different than Saturn, Mercury is very different than Venus. Each planet is selective. It's going to select the energy from that star that it can best handle. Okay, so it's selective. And if you've ever looked at Vivian Robeson's star book, he gives a different description meaning for every star with every planet with that star, or with the ascendant, or with a combination of stars, because literally the stars are filtered by the planets, by what's coming in. It's rare to get the whole stellar meaning. You get parts and bits of it here and there. So the interpretation depends on the particular star and planet involved.